Welcome to the new moon in Virgo reading. Took Labor Day off because obviously. And we've got the butterfly card, the ghostland card, which says forgetfulness below it, and the world card. And that's quince in this deck. So we'll start with the world card. Quince is an ancient fruit. It is the ancestor to pears and apples, and it is known in many a mythology as the golden fruit, the golden apple, lots of different stories about it, but really speaking to the way that this can be the seed that turns into this fruit that makes up all of our legends, or so many of our legends and so many of our stories, and also a pivotal part in a lot of civilizations. And this particular fruit, when you bite it, it's like that astringent feeling in your mouth. But if you cook it down, it releases pectin, turns pink, it's sweet. And that's speaking to the sweetness of life as represented in the world card. So we are in a constant process of change, birth, death, endings, beginnings, all of these things, which is also reiterated in the butterfly card. But this card is really speaking to coming to fruition, coming to an understanding of this is the end of a journey and we're ready and willing to start our next journey. And I think that this is a pivotal time in history, within ourselves, and with the Virgo sign. It's the sign of the harvest. It's the sign of being the full plant, coming to fruition, fruiting, giving of yourself, and becoming something else because you are giving of yourself. And ultimately, and then the plant will die out. Some plants, not all. But in this particular case, these beautiful flowers, they're sometimes pink, they're sometimes red. They're giving us the vibration of lovingness, of caring, of enjoying. So we're really set to figure this out. Like, how are we going to change the world? Because it's time. It's time for us to change the world. And I will say that changing the world doesn't have anything to do with changing other people's minds or changing other people's perspectives or trying to get them over to your perspective. That is not the point of right now. The point of right now is really standing in your own truth, standing in your own self. What do you bring to the table? You are the golden fruit. You are bringing that to the table. What is it, the special, beautiful, amazing thing that you bring that is so necessary to this world? And we all bring something. It's not that you have to be super productive and you have to be super on top of everything and all the way healed. That's not the point of right now. The point is understanding that we have come to an ending and we are in the process of beginning the new thing. And maybe we've already been in this process for a long time, but now is the time to really check yourself, really check in with yourself. What are you investing in and what are you done investing in? Next, let's look at this Ghostland card. So it's got the blues and the purples and the whites. So it's giving us crown, third eye, and throat chakra. So all of these upper chakras, these areas where we're pulling down the energy and we're giving the energy out through the throat chakra. Like, what are we witnessing? What are we opening ourselves up to? What are we allowing spirit? How are we allowing spirit to guide us? Here's the thing. We're always allowing spirit to guide us. Spirit is always guiding us. But if we're not constantly interacting with spirit, setting the intention for spirit, because ultimately in our physical being, we are the powerful ones. But when we are in forgetfulness of our own power and being able to say, I have the intention of working with the spirits, the guides, whatever you want to call it, that are for the highest good of all. I have the intention of understanding that everything that I notice is important for me to notice, and it's important for me to dissect and understand and analyze, because that's also a very Virgo thing. And how am I communicating myself effectively so that I can functionally show up as the most symbiotic, necessary being just by being fully myself and believing in myself. So Ghostland is, it alludes to that place in between where you're not a physical being, but you're not ascended into enlightenment or the one consciousness or whatever you want to call it. And forgetfulness, we are, for sometimes, and our society breeds this, a forgetfulness of our true selves, our true nature and being, which is dramatically more than one single human life. Our life and all of our stories, that is what we hold on to, that keeps us in that liminal place where we're not able to evolve in the way that we're supposed to, and staying in that forgetfulness and the forgetting that we know everything and we have access to all of the information that we could ever want, because it's all there. It's all there in the ether, in the consciousness, in the Akashic records, whatever you want to call it. Tons of different names for the same thing. The fact that we can tap into all of the knowledge and all of the telepathic beings that exist that are trying to find ways to communicate with us. And maybe that's too out there for some people, but I'm tired of pretending that I could possibly do this all by myself. I'm tired of pretending that it's impossible to remember. It is possible to remember, and we must take that opportunity to work with spirit so that we can just live more fully, and we can stop being so tied to feeling this immense hopelessness of being stuck. Because, you know, it is more beneficial for us to feel for other people. It's more beneficial for other people to keep us feeling stuck, disempowered, like we don't have any agency in our life. And we actually do. We actually can take charge of our lives, and that's where I believe the butterfly comes in. Air element, so it's taking charge of our mind, our communication, how we're interacting in that air element. And the butterfly is obviously one of the most transformational creatures that we have ascribed this thing called imaginal cells to, where the caterpillar, it eats voraciously, it's getting all of the nutrients, and then it wraps itself in a cocoon, and then it emerges from the cocoon, and it has to dry off, and it's vulnerable, and then it flies away. And there are these amazing pollinators that they may carry less pollen than bees, but they carry it farther than bees. So this is really taking our dreams, taking our imagination, and like going far with it, like understanding that we are the fruits of life. We are the transformational beings. We have the opportunity to grow into what it is that we need to grow into in order to be a part of making this world a better, more functional, symbiotic place. We can take accountability and opportunity to that. And for some people, it's putting in more work and getting more structured and focused and like analyzing how we can figure that out. For some people, it's resting more, and it's understanding the necessity of caring for yourself and finding the sweetness and the joy in life and going on the journeys that you need to go on in order to get the healing and the growth that you need. But it's all coming from imagination. Like, we have to be able to not just fully immerse ourselves in how horrible everything is, which is very easy to do. There's plenty of opportunity, plenty of things to get us angry, keep us forgetting that we are powerful, that we are able to make a difference in this world, if only just by making a difference in ourselves. But we must take the opportunity to imagine something else, to imagine that we could grow and evolve, to imagine that we deserve that despite whatever's going on in our life, we can take it one step at a time, and we don't have to do everything. It's not our job to save the world. We can't save the world. A lot of these things that have been going and churning have been going and churning for a lot longer than any of us have been alive. And that's not to say that we shouldn't have to take accountability for things that our ancestors have done and try to change the world into a better way. But what I'm saying is that there's no way that you or me or any other one person is going to shift the tides of this world into something that is better. It's going to be a lot of us taking little baby steps, one step at a time, imagining our life being a little bit different here, a little bit different there, putting a little bit more energy into something that we're a little bit more excited about, and not overdoing it and trying to put all of our energy into something and then crashing and burning. Because we've done enough of that. We've done enough of the boom and bust culture. We've done enough of the disaster capitalism culture. And now it is time to dial it back, to step outside of capitalism in one way or another, because we're still holding on to some kind of normal that was never actually good for us in the beginning. And how are we going to step outside of this situation? How are we going to move into a better situation for ourselves? How are we going to evolve in the way that we are meant to right now? How are we going to be our own golden fruit? And also the quince is good for anti-inflammation and digestive issues. And so digestive issues, that's our intuition, and that's our solar plexus and sacral chakra. And inflammation being just our body's way of trying to get rid of something that is no longer good for us. So what is no longer good for you? What aspect of life are you ready to change? Are you ready to evolve out of? Are you ready to stop forgetting and opening yourself up to the reality that there's so much more out there available to help us if we could just open ourselves up to it? We can't open ourselves up to it if we're in the forgetting. The movie, it doesn't matter. The movie where they all forget about everything and then the fairy tale characters are forgotten about, so they're disappearing. Like, that's what's happening. But like with the good and the joy in the world is that we're forgetting that good and joy can exist. And if you completely forget that good and joy can exist, then it won't exist. But we are moving into something more positive. Like, anybody worth their salt that's doing any kind of future predictions knows that it doesn't have to end horribly. This doesn't have to end horribly, but that requires us taking accountability. That requires us imagining. That requires us putting in the work, and sometimes the work is just going into the cocoon and imagining something different for yourself, changing your cells around, and then coming out of the cocoon a whole new butterfly, a whole new being. So really give yourself that opportunity to work with the spirits that are trying to work with you, who've been working with you. Set the intention to work with the spirits that are for the highest good of all, and to allow yourself to be new, to be renewed, and allow yourself to understand that that doesn't require any real extra work. It just requires you settling into what is actually right for you and what feels good for you. So take that opportunity to really stand tall, be the fruiting plant, be willing to give of yourself, and be willing to imagine a new reality, and to step outside of the forgetfulness that keeps us in fear and judgment, because that's also a Virgo trait, which is the judging of all things, which can be helpful because it can help you understand what is for you and what's not for you. And also it can be detrimental because it keeps you from being curious, from exploring the world and being excited about change. So take all of this with a grain of salt, take care of yourself, listen to your body, and be willing to imagine a new reality. And I will see you next time.